and welcome to Oakville Matters. Today we're going to talk about the future of North Oakville. That's part of Oakville, north of Dundas. And joining us today to look at the future is one of the town of Oakville's senior planners, Gabe Charles, a school trustee, Kelly Amos, a long-serving school trustee, and a resident of North Oakville, Nanda. And welcome. And I wanted to start by asking you, Nav, what made you choose Oakville, and what did you move to North Oakville from another part of Oakville, or did you choose Oakville cold, so to speak?
No, I've actually been living in Oakville for about 10 years, and we love the community, especially for the kids. We love that it's a small town feel. It feels more like family. And even in our new area, we actually moved from the 3rd line in Dundas area to the 6th line in Dundas, the new North Oakville area, primarily because, again, we love living in Oakville and because we felt that it was a great community to raise children.
So I've got a map. I don't know what to call it, but I'll show it. And it is kind of a schematic of all of North Oakville. And there. So Nav, you're talking about the area, I guess, it feels like almost the center of this, off to the right of the center, right?
Yes, so 6th line and Dundas is the primary area.
So there's a skinny green strand running through the middle of your area? Is that right?
Well, we have a forest area just behind where we are off of 6th line.
Yeah.
And
so that green, that's the natural heritage system,
which
is 2,300 acres of preserved green space. That's kind of the hallmark of North Oakville. Gabe, you had a little bit to do with that. Do you want to explain how that came to happen?
The natural heritage system was part of the overall fabric for North Oakville. It was really the balance of that versus the new community. Really, it becomes the foundation for North Oakville. And it, as you say, 2,300 acres, but it's made of not just forested land, but it also includes the meadows as well. And that's in addition to the planned park space that we have for North Oakville.
And do you happen to know how much that is?
The
park space?
Amount of park space we have, we get about 65 hectares or so when we're all said and done. And that's a range of different park sizes. That includes the small village squares, which are about 1 acre. That'll be the community parks, as well as the neighborhood parks, which are a little bit smaller, and those are the ones that you'll see associated with the schools. So then we also have this map of the neighborhoods of North Oakville. It's actually more than I thought there would be. Maybe we could, there you go, that's it. And so are you in 7 Oaks, Woodland Trails, the Preserve? Preserve. So that's one of the early ones.
Yes, we were in phase 1 on that side. It started at the Neagawa in Dundas. That was done a few years prior. But in our area, we were phase 1.
Yeah. So what's your sense of the degree of a community feeling that's building there? One of the core things about Oakville that I've always loved, the thing that my wife and I, that made us choose Oakville, was the engagement in the community. How is that? What are you experiencing there?
We definitely have a lot of engagement. In terms of our community, the one thing that we do love is that we have become a close-knit community. I think that started from, we sort of all bought the homes together, we moved in together, so we had the growing pains together, the construction, the development, and we grew together as a community in that way. So I think having the community together and having our children there together has brought all of us.
You and your family are braver than me and my family. We've always been afraid to buy a home in a new subdivision because we feared that we wouldn't be able to survive mentally the construction period of the subdivision.
Yes.
So we've always bought an old home. But you've survived it and you're still together, right?
Yes. And it was a lot.
It's a test of a marriage, I think.
I think in some sense it truly was a test for all of us because we were prior to that living in a newer community, but the house had already been developed. So coming to a brand new area and not knowing how it was going to work and how long it was going to take for completion, and we're there now 4 years, and I think it's taken this long to finally settle in.
So does it feel like you went through 4 years of dust?
Yes, definitely. Just from that, and I'm sure we'll discuss the school too, from having the school opening in a whole construction zone. It was something new for all the residents to experience and just get used to. So it took a while. It took a while. I think we did have some challenges, but we've overcome those challenges, as you said, and now we've sort of settled in, and it's a beautiful community.
Now, is your school Udinami?
Yes, it is.
And is that 2 years old now?
We're in our 3rd year.
3rd year?
Yes.
So you only had to wait about a year for the school?
We were actually quite surprised because our children were obviously we were still going to the schools that they were in previously to when we moved in. And then when we found out that school was opening, we were happy, but we were surprised that it was opening so quickly because there was so much construction going on at that time.
That's got to be the best thing Kelly's heard all day.
Well, we had such a unique partnership with the town of Oakville to be able to build the school while the building was still going on in the community. That's never happened with our board before, and I think it's kudos to the town of Oakville, the fact that we were able to have that partnership and create Onawi in an area where the homes were still being built. So, and I know there were some trials and tribulations regarding the busing and the walk to, but I think it worked out really well for all of us because, as you said, the school was there a lot earlier than you thought it would be, and you were able to have the kids go to school in your own community and not have to take them out or be bussed out. So I think it was a great thing that happened.
Yeah, and all we did was discover that we could allow you to buy the school site faster than the regulations had previously done. And when we realized that was the holdup, we went, well, let's fix that.
Yeah.
So how many more schools are you going to build up there?
There's going to be 6 elementary and 2 high schools eventually, and we just got the money for the second elementary school, which will be just east of 6th Line, and will be built for 2019.
Now, what about when will the first high school happen? How many people do you have to wait till you have enough people, or what's
Well, actually, every year we submit capital priorities to the ministry, and we had actually asked them to have a high school funded to be built by 2020 because it takes 2 years to build a high school, but only takes 1 to build an elementary school. But we didn't get the funding this year for it, so we're hoping for it next year. So it means the earliest it can be built will be for 2021.
It's frustrating for me to hear that because I had a meeting with every member of the provincial cabinet that has anything to do with delivering the provincial support for growth in North Oakville, including the Minister of Finance. And I made the point to him that if he couldn't find the money to build your high school, he ought to fix the Development Charges Act so that we could make the developers have to pay the money. And he said, oh, there's no problem, and yada, yada, yada. And I didn't know that day that he was denying your high school. So it seems to me that the province, having mandated all this growth in the GTA, has a duty to keep up with it, and I'm kind of frustrated that they don't seem to do that. Does the rest of your board feel badly about not being able to keep up with the growth?
Definitely. There's some frustration that, I mean, we have to submit our capital priorities, and we do it in good faith in the order that we believe is best suited for our board, including so Oakville and Milton with the high growth areas. Those are the priorities, but the Ministry of Education makes these decisions, and we try to make our best case, and they make the decisions to do the funding, and I'm not sure how they do it.
Well, I'll tell you and everybody at home that this is an election year for the province. This might be the time to nag them. And you know, who knows, maybe we can get some action. Or you can maybe, all the incumbents will have opponents. Maybe the opponents will nag them, I don't know, but we need some pressure, I think.
I totally agree with you. The community's voices are the loudest, and so I do believe the communities are the people who need to speak up and to ask their MPPs to have these schools built, because as a board, we do advocate for what we believe is right, and to get the elementary schools and the high schools in the timelines that we feel is fair is what we do. And as when I was chair, I even wrote a letter asking for that funding. But the fact that it hasn't happened, we really need the community to start advocating.
Gabe, you're a unique town civil servant in that one of your prime responsibilities is interpreting and guiding council in how to deal with the province's laws and regulations about growth, right? And I know that in the province's growth law and plan, there's a concept of complete communities. That includes schools on time?
It doesn't certainly include the idea of having schools in the residential areas at the right time. The idea of complete communities is having that full balance of uses, having the commercial opportunities, places to work, places to play as well, being able to move around the community, which also speaks to having the right infrastructure, transit and otherwise. So the parks are important, the schools are important, and getting them in sync is a challenge oftentimes, because there's different agendas and timeframes that are at play. And so we do certainly try to work with the boards themselves, as well as Halton Region, to make sure that we are delivering all of that infrastructure at the right time.
So in the matter of schools where the province, fails to keep up, is there anything we can do? Can we we're in the middle of reviewing, every 5 years we're required to review our official plan, which is how we guide the implementation of the province's rules around growth. Can we, in reviewing it, add an element, let's call it schools first policy or something like that? I'm making this up as we talk because it hadn't occurred to me before. I'm not trying to blindside you. It's not a foreign idea to try to do that, and our biggest partner in delivering the school sites is actually the developers themselves, because they have the land that we are pinpointing for that type of infrastructure. So certainly through our review of our policy, and we've been undertaking that now for a few years with our North Oakville secondary plans, is did we get the right spots for the schools? Are they in the places where they need to be in order to serve the greatest amount of population and the number of residents that are there? So being able to identify those locations early on is certainly a good thing. We certainly try to make that process as easy as possible for the boards. In that, I mean, we try to ensure that a school site is entirely within a plan of subdivision, as opposed to straddling a couple of different properties, which makes it rather difficult then if those property owners are moving ahead at different times. So we try to certainly identify those up front, and we certainly try to ensure that the developers, we hold their feet as much as we can to the fire to make sure that the properties are serviced in a timely way. So Kelly and Gabe, whether we have the money to build the high school yet or not, there are, I think, 2 sites for high schools sort of indicated in the North Oakville plan. Am I right?
That's correct.
Has the board finalized on its sites for its high schools, or has the board finalized on the site for the first high school?
The first high school we are currently in negotiations on. So when we receive the money, then we'll be able to move forward. We are looking at purchasing the land, but again, it's about funding.
So you have to get money or you have to get permission from the ministry even to purchase the land?
Well,
what about just deciding that that's the site?
No, we can decide the site now. We don't have to wait for the ministry to give us that permission.
Have you decided the site for the first one?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know that. I thought it was up in the air, so I'm glad to hear
Well,
that.
there's some negotiations involved, but we know where
Wait,
that
there's
in that
negotiations
area.
involved.
Oh no, with the not with the ministry, with the where the actual site is. But I mean, and the town has been a part of that. So we have we know where the first high school will be. So, but we need the funding to move forward on it.
Okay, so is the site Nayagawa and Dundas?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So I can write that down and put it in my diary and tell people that's where your high
Yes, you
school's
can.
going?
That's where we're looking at.
All right. So and that's what you're looking for?
Well, I'm the chair of Odainawi Public Schools, so
So you're wondering where your kids are going to go?
Exactly. Because of how we're populated, we're currently overpopulated in our schools. Odainawi is kind of the hub of our North Oakville area, that area. So with having all the parents constantly communicating with them, we're seeing a lot of parents come out wondering what's going to happen next. A lot of our students are in portables. Where are they going to go from there? When are we going to get a new school? So we were very happy to hear that we're getting a new school that's hopefully going to open up in 2019, elementary school. That'll give us some relief. And then further to that, we're hoping that the high school will be open soon as well. And then our students will have.
Apparently, at this point, not before 2021 at the best, right?
That's correct, because it takes 2 years to build a high school. So even if we get the funding next year, it will take 2 years to build it.
Gosh, let's figure out a way to campaign aggressively over the next couple of months to get that funding right now. I mean, strike while the iron is hot, I think, or whatever is the expression. Like, some of the best stuff gets done during elections, or promised anyway. I also wanted to throw up a map that shows the political organization of the area. This map reflects that with our population change, before, for a long time, what you see there is Ward 4, and or you see Ward 4 in there, among there, and there's a presently Ward 4 goes all the way to the west, and it goes above the QEW all the way to 16 Mile Creek, which is this squiggly line. And it goes all the way up into the blue area, and Ward 5 goes all the way up in the blue area. And for the next election in October, we're going to have this ward structure. And that reflects the fact that Ward 4 had become so large to the point where its population was double that of the smallest wards, and that's just not right in the idea of representative democracy. So anyway, the change. So I'm sure that all the incumbents in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are running again, and I'm wondering if there's any awareness of the municipal election in Ward 7 in your neighborhood yet, because you're really the center of gravity of what
Yes.
is in Ward 7 now.
Yes, we are. I think residents have become aware that there's going to be an election this year, and so it is open because there isn't an incumbent. So it should be interesting to see how this election comes in with the challenges we've had in the area and how those are going to be represented, and
Yeah.
where we.
So you get to elect 2 people, and both serve on the Oakville Town Council, and one serves on the Regional Municipal Council. And the region matters because in your property tax, around 20, I forget the exact percentage, and it changes year to year, so don't blame me about this, but 22% of your property tax goes to the province for the education system. And the rest, I'll call it the municipal part, is roughly 50-50 between the town and the region. So in theory, if you care about what your money's doing, you care about both equally.
Exactly.
Now, traditionally in Oakville, when the region was created, Oakville hated the idea, and it lost that fight. And so a lot of people have tended to think that, well, the best thing to do is just ignore it, but I don't think that's a good idea. You don't want to ignore half your money, right?
Yeah.
So our council's been very good about going up there and looking after things. So you should have a whole bunch of community events going on now where you're saying to each other, well, why don't you run? No, why don't you run? You know, that sort of push people forward, or, you know, do the
That's right.
voluntold thing.
That's
Is
right.
that happening? School councils are a great incubator for this.
We have been discussing it, you know, being a part of the council again, and just having our council members, we are aware, and we see, again, because Odainawi, because of our population, that's based around the whole population in our area that, you know, would be a part of this election. So there's quite a few residents in our area, and so there has been talk of, you know, who should run for election and, you know, who would be best fit. I think one of the conversations we've had around is people will come from other wards who want to be representing your ward. And I think one of the important things is when you live in the ward, you're representing it because you have a higher interest, you know, being inside that ward. So I think there have been some discussions around that as well.
Yeah, and by the way, I would encourage you to hold on to that thought, because in Oakville's history, it's not normal, it's not unknown. Once or twice in our history, we've had really remarkable people who might live on one side of town and get elected on the other side of town. But by and large, parachutes, as they call them in the federal and provincial system, don't open very well in Oakville ward politics. And I'll make everybody an offer. Anybody who's interested in and would like to know how it works and what's really involved, there's two things you can do. There's a guide for being a counselor that kind of takes away some of the myths and the scare stories around it. That guide is on the Municipal Affairs website. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs has a candidate's guide, and on Google, if you Google Ontario Municipal Candidates Guide, it'll take you there. And it does a really good job of dispelling your fears about the job. And I'll give time to anybody who wants to call me or email me to try to further demystify the process and explain what's really involved, to try to make it easier to make a decision. And I always do that. I get called all the time by people, and not just in Ward 7, about, I want to run, what's involved? And I figure I can't tell who's going to win, so I have to be nice to everybody. So good luck with that. I'm looking forward to who will come to the council table on that. Gabe, can you give us and our viewers a sense of what's yet to come in North Oakville? I think people would like to know things like, what's the destination population? What's the planned population? I can say the planned population, that kind of thing. Where are we headed dimensionally?
Yeah. Well, earlier on you mentioned the secondary plan review, which we are undertaking. So we are looking at the policy framework north of Dundas for the east and the west plans, because we need to roll that into our Livable Oakville plan, which was Council's vision in 2009. So we have to go through the exercise now of updating that secondary plan for both sides. As part of that, we are looking at the land uses themselves. Are we achieving what was originally envisioned for North Oakville? Are there tweaks to that we need to make to the policy to get the right form of development that we want to see in North Oakville? When the plan was originally done for the east side in 2008, if I remember correctly, that had forecasted a population of 50,000 people, about 33,000 jobs. And because it was based on the 2021 forecast, we now have new numbers that we have to subscribe to, which has now put the forecast out to 2041. So we need to update our planning numbers and our forecasting to the 2041 population. So as of right now, we're still in the infancy of going through that plan.
No, excuse me.
Yeah.
So in 2008, we were working with, was it 2031 forecasts?
When the plan was adopted, 21.
21.
Yeah.
Interesting to know. I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So yeah, so really what
So
we're
there's
doing
a 21, a 31, and a 41.
Right. So
Good
we're at
fun.
when the 2017 growth plan came out from the province, it had a new forecast for numbers. So our work with the region is to really disaggregate that population number for Halton and how much does Oakville take, and are we taking that population in the right locations? That's part of our whole official plan review program. So we will continue to look at updating those numbers to the new forecast.
I wonder if people will ever understand, and I fear they won't, that growth is this thing that the province runs, and that you know, it's kind of something that's done to us. It's not something we go begging for. Every person I've ever met who moved to Oakville wants us to shut the door behind them and not let anybody else in. I'm here, you can stop now.
Yeah.
So do you see that 50,000 or 55,000, whatever it was, being tweaked or changed significantly, or because we're not anywhere close to it?
No, our population, based on the 2016 census, I want to say is about 6,500 people or so.
Yeah, that's the number we're working with.
And so we know that. Will the number be tweaked? It may be a little bit. I don't think it'll be a significant change. There's a number of growth areas or centers in Oakville where we will be focusing the majority of our growth. So because this is the greenfield, it's a little bit more measured in terms of how we progress with development through the north. So the number might tweak a little bit. I can't see it being a significant change.
Now, what about the natural heritage system? Is that going to change, or are we going to only look for ways to strengthen that?
The policies that we have around the natural heritage system are fairly strong policies. It was the first of its kind, really, in how it was conceived and how it was implemented.
And still the best.
Arguably. And in fact, other municipalities and regions have taken note of how that was done and have tried to follow a similar track. How we review those policies and any updates that we need to make, we'll do that through our policy review.
Okay. So I can tell you that Council doesn't plan to approve anything but strengthening of the natural heritage system. And we're very proud of that achievement. It is, after all, not only the first, but I think it's still the largest natural heritage system of any municipality in the country, something we're justifiably proud of. Thank you guys for helping to illuminate the future for North Oakville, and I hope you'll tune in again next time on Oakville Matters.